Hello everyone, it's Cheryl Millett here, live at 5 Mondays for January the 11th. A few things, just for those people who are watching this for the first time, or as a reminder, we'll go into something new, something different, that kind of thing. I love to share things that are fun, a little bit of interest, or they're tips, or they're things that just bring attention to. The other thing is with the news, certain things that are going on right now, or in some cases it's studies, research that I'm doing that I want to just talk about, and then go into some jokes, some humor, and that will end the live at 5, all things healthy, and we go from there. So, how is everyone doing? The idea of asking that to yourself and also to others is to bring some sort of a connection with each other, because right now, as I hear from the walk club, I can't tell you just how appreciative they are that that I do the Sunday walk. I'm still open, never closed, been there, and now I have the 2 additional walks, the chat walks, Tuesdays and Thursdays, to give people something to look forward to. Yes, there may only be on these chat walks 6 or 7 or 8 people at most, but it matters to those people, and that's all that matters, right? That's all that matters. I have no idea the Cheryl's walking days or what that's going to kind of transpire in this year, 2021, because we're supposed to go to Newfoundland in June, and then Ireland in September because it was canceled last June. But we'll see what happens. Looking forward to something is something, and so I encourage everybody here to look forward to something. Is there something that you have to look forward to? Is there some things that you have to look forward to? What are they? Write them down. Share them here if you like. But bring attention to the things that you're looking forward to. It may already be in the works, and maybe something you can easily do. Maybe it is something at home. Maybe it's nothing to be with this event currently being completely over, and we carry on more consciously aware and more awakened than ever, which is actually sounds like a very nice idea. Anyway, welcome, and let's go through the something that I want to share, something new, maybe for some of you, or something different, completely different. This is a trick I learned when I worked at a restaurant, and it's hard to believe. I think I was 13 at the time, working in a restaurant, waitressing. Hard to believe. I couldn't imagine. I was trying to imagine that when my daughters were 13, and having to put them in that. So what are you doing? You're collecting money? Yep, lots of math. You are standing before strangers. Sometimes they're your own age, or there's whole attractiveness or whatever. Or sometimes older people. Any which way, you sure get pushed out of your comfort zone. But this is something that I learned there, and I continue to use it. Some what is it? 30. 40 years later. So, 40 years later. Anyway, so I want to show you this, the best I can. The best I can. Now, I have a water pitcher because I go get spring water. And so in my office, rather than have a big bottle of the water, I have a 2-liter, I'm going to say, 2-liter glass jug. Now, you can see how clean it is, but it's not always this clean. Once the minerals from the water over time make it cloudy, right? It's kind of you get that stuff when you kettle. If you have the kettle and you heat up the water, and you've got this material. Same thing with the coffee pots, the glass coffee pots, teapots, whatever. You have water sitting things in there, and this it leaves lines, it leaves marks, and I can just best kind of somewhat show you. You can see it's a bit cloudy on here, but when this gets cloudy, you might want to get in there with a scrub brush. You might want to do that, but I'm going to give you something that I learned at the restaurant that lickety split, it is clean. So this is glass. This is where maybe it works on plastic. I'm not sure, but it's that's why I put up copper pennies as far as the list. Couple of copper pennies, some warm water, hot water, and 2 pennies dropped in with some vinegar. And all you do is shake it around. Just go like this with all of that. And all of the mineral lines that you find in your glasses and your, again, it could be your coffee pots. As people, I don't have coffee pot, but the idea is it's in there. But I do have a tea kettle, so I would use it the same thing in the tea kettle. But not just any coins. It has to be the copper pennies. And clean in no time. So that's what I wanted to share with you today, because there are these tips. I mean, I think I have about 3 tip books for cleaning, and they keep coming up with that. You can see it on Instagram. I can't remember. They show you 5 minutes anyway. They'll come up with these really interesting ways to do things, crafts included. Just tips. Really, really fun to watch. Almost would be if I had to be addicted to anything, that's something I would be addicted to. So if you have any tips that you've had, whether they're new and they've been around forever, or whether you've had them for a long time, post them down below. Share them with us. Let's share those tips, because in this case it saves a lot of time. I'm not going to say a lot of money, but it saves a lot of time. And then save the pennies for the next time. Well, this is amazing use for the pennies. I know they're not used we know that they're not used in the money exchange anymore, but I can't remember how I have, probably about a dozen in my drawer here. Now, news. So a couple of things here. One thing is, I've always had this curiosity, and you can absolutely fill me in if you can, because this is something I've thought of before. Now, what I have here is NASA Curiosity rover. I guess that's what the name. 3,000 days on Mars. And okay, so there's this rover, and I can see from the pictures in the article, I'm going to put them on here, that you're seeing photos that are taken from the rover. You can see the pictures. But then there's one picture of the rover on Mars. And I'm so curious, unless there's a second rover, or somehow they've stuck up a camera, because I can't see them having that clarity from a camera or telescope or anything from Earth, but maybe they do. How do they get a picture of the rover from a distance on Mars if the rover is the only thing that's on Mars? Again, there's other pictures on there that you can see. It comes from a camera on the rover. You can just see clearly. There's not the rover in the shot, but they somehow have it outlined. Maybe it's protected under something because of the heat or something. But I often wondered that. And some of these pictures that I've seen in certain articles are pictures of the item or pictures of the scenario, but how can they do that if that's the only thing there? I don't understand. I don't have the clarity. And so if you're a science person, or if you're in the know of how they do that, I would love to know, because I'm very curious on how they do that. But I'm going to post up the link with the NASA and the pictures of Mars, which is kind of cool. I mean, it really looks like some areas here on Earth, to tell you the truth, the reddish rocks, the rocks in itself, and that. So that's really cool. And talking to more and more people about these lovely VCs, the poke. And yeah, there's a lot of people that are so worried about these ones. They weren't so worried about the previous ones, and I don't know why not, but mostly probably why not is just because I don't know enough of what was in there. Didn't have any, how can I say it? It wasn't changing your genes, maybe, or just kind of gets a little serious now when things are going to possibly change the genes. But in essence, the other ones did as well, or the other ones did impact with the proteins, be it peanuts were in some, or certain cat this, or materials, so a lot of materials have proteins, and which is what I've heard about why we have allergies to begin with. All of a sudden, there's peanut allergies when there weren't peanut allergies, and it has to do with what they put in the vaccines. Now I wanted to go back, now let me see if I can find this, go back and read something here. Let me see, yes, here it is. And so in some cases, there's a lot of emphasis on vaccines and needing vaccines, and I will just say that in a primitive form back in the 1700s, if you know the story already, Edward Jenner, and it's to do with the smallpox, or a form of pox, and the milkmaids were immune to it. But it's no different than today finding some people in Africa immune to malaria because they're in that environment. And the mosquitoes, I've talked to this before, the mosquitoes are mini inoculators, and maybe other insects are as well when they bite, insects that bite. And be it mosquitoes are probably one of those ones that are on the top of the list of biting or feeding off of us. But in that process, there's an exchange. And in that exchange is going into the blood the purest form of malaria. And not all these other things that have to be brought into the vaccines because of the process and because of the, well, the main thing, you need to have them clean. You need to have them clean, because if they're not clean, what you're doing is putting in your body things that are, well, they're just breaking down, because outside of the mosquito's alive. And so within the mosquito, it's going to have the, let's say, the malaria itself, because the malaria is getting picked up from where it's also feeding off of. So if you stick with me here, the mosquito is alive. With the vaccines, it's almost science being ignorant in the day, no different than when they were spreading infection from doing autopsies to then putting their hands all over the uterus for bringing, a delivery, delivery. And there were so many women that died from blood infection, or sepsis as they call it. So here you have, in our nature, we have things that bite us, the mosquito, that has bitten us, picked up micro amounts, small amounts, and then in the exchange of biting us, we little doses were given, let's say for the people in Africa, the area where malaria is, and then they became immune. So here, in this case, you had milkmaids, as they were called, were immune to the smallpox because they were working around in the cowpox, whatever, they were working there. And so that probably led scientists to go, okay, well, if we took the pus, I guess this was what they were deemed where the material was, and then rubbed it into scratches on the arm, then that would work. Now, apparently, my understanding is in some cases people did get very sick and die. And back then, initially, sepsis, same thing. Maybe there was other things that got on there. When we kind of expose our body, scratches, skin, open wounds to material, we're exposing ourselves as well, and they probably didn't know how to sterilize things that way as well. But the idea is to actually be in the environment you are and to be exposed to what is there is going to bring natural immunity. End of story. And to think that it may be possible that we can bring that into the body the same way as nature has it would be ridiculous. So in the old days, the way they used to make vaccines is not like they do today. There's more synthetic. It's no different than synthetic nutrients versus non-synthetic nutrients, as far as what you get from your fruits and vegetables, but when they do that, they try to control control the item, because When things are dead, they're susceptible to breaking down. They're susceptible to mold. They're susceptible, of course, it's decomposing back into our environment. It's nature in itself. So this is why they have chosen, I believe, rather than get into the nefarious things, is to put all of the things that are going to protect the various items that they've put in there. Hopefully it should only be one. Like if I'm only protecting people from measles, it should only be measles in there. How they get this other stuff in there and put pieces of protein from cats and pieces of protein from peanuts is beyond me. It sounds ridiculous, but why not create a bunch of immunities or other things which they have come up with is all of these autoimmune diseases. Are they coming from the poke? I'll call it the poke. Are they? Are they? We're not talking pureness here coming into our body. We are talking about formaldehyde and aluminum and mercury that are very, if you go and look at them, not from the CDC sites, but the other websites, environmental hazards and stuff like that, they are extremely toxic. So you're putting that in your body as well. Yes, does it keep it clean? Yeah. If they're not in refrigeration, that becomes a problem. It's no different than the food that we have. And if it's dead food, not so much. But over time, if there's anything there and it's not salted enough or it doesn't have a lot of sugar in it, it will need to break down. That's nature. And you have to understand nature. So getting back to this whole thing about poking our bodies is to understand the different pieces and to understand that our immunity is best naturally. And in the times that we're exposed to it, we need to understand that if we have a healthy lifestyle, then we go through it elegantly. Like chickenpox, like my daughter went through chickenpox, and like I've gone through measles, and I think that's the only thing I had. I didn't have chickenpox, but I had measles. My sister had the mumps, I believe, and measles. So you go through it more elegantly when you have a healthy lifestyle, but also you go through it more elegantly if you really understand the nature of these things. The reason why things are tripping people up more and more today is because of the unhealthiness, the unhealthy lifestyles that we have today. And people are going crying out for the very medicines that cause side effects and such because they haven't done their healthy lifestyle work. It's really, really simple. Healthy lifestyle, you will be better supported in many, many respects. But what's kind of happened is we've asked for help, or let's say we've taken the help that they propose to us because of the problems that occur, and it's almost like that make a problem and have people yelling for the solution and then give them the solution, right? It's the same thing. It's no different than what's going on with this current event, and we have that. So I just wanted to bring more of an understanding for the poking that's going on and has been going on. Yes, people are dying from this current poke. Yes, they are. Have they done in the past? Yes, they have. This is experimenting. They've known they've experimented. They have gathered people to experiment. It's experimenting. It's experimenting when really, if you go anywhere, have mosquitoes give you a bite. Now I'm going to suggest, having been in South Africa, and the window was left open, just for some fresh air, but they didn't give us the mosquito nets. And I woke up this morning because my friend good intentions, but we weren't given the mosquitoes. It's the things you don't know. And I was bitten because I had the sheet maybe on the core part of my body, but from there all the way down to my legs, I must have had 100 mosquito bites. Now it would have been hilarious to have a camera, with all of these things biting, and me, I'm a dead sleeper, not feeling it at all. I didn't wake up. But in the morning when I woke up, I was surprised that I had all these, but I didn't understand it. But needless to say, we figured it out. But oh boy, was it red and hot and heat coming from that part of my body. So did I get it? Was I fearful I was going to get anything from them? Absolutely not. I had every confidence. The body will communicate with me, and just hope for the best and see what happens. But nothing happened health-wise. And, so maybe I am, if there was any malaria or whatever there was in South Africa, it was near Victoria Falls. We and it was, it was an experience, but maybe now I'm immune to it. I don't know. The red and heat was there. We just don't know, right? We don't know. So that's all I'm going to talk about the poke, but seriously, people are dying. Yeah, people are being affected already. And the current idea around going forward is because they don't know what they don't know, and the fact that if you are forcing your immune system to do something, and the particular material that's in there, and it is like our body, this is where they're talking about the cytokine storm that can happen because all of a sudden something comes into the body and the immune system recognizes it as foreign, but it's like something else that's been embedded into our genes, that call it. It's called what they're embedding into. And all of a sudden it wants to destroy every cell in your body. And I just heard recently that the person who had passed, I believe it was Florida, but don't quote me on it, the whole, the platelets just kept disappearing. And this was right after he got the vaccine. So the idea is many things can maybe happen depending on uniquely from individuals and your own individual health. So the idea is that the nurse had passed, even though they say she didn't, but she did. I saw it on the obituaries myself, looked it up, and it's there. So we have to understand that they're going to want to protect the people from finding out about what is what is happening. They're going to want to. They don't want to cause chaos. They figure whoever they is figuring out that it maybe can do more good than harm. But we're talking about the coronavirus, people, here, and we're also talking about nature, as in there's a number of people these days that are with comorbidities. They have diseases. They are dying from other things. The lifestyle isn't there. You can do away with the long-term care facilities for all I'm at. I don't think they do a world of good for any of the people in there. They're just zombies, most of them, or at least the ones that I've been in. So there you go. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. So I want to talk about something else here. Primarily what this is going to be brought into, and there's one other thing I'm going to bring up too. So, notes here. How is everybody doing? Natural laws. So I'm reading a book. I'm walking around the neighborhood, and this was a couple of weeks ago or more. Meet a neighbor. I don't know where he exactly lives, but he's in close by, and he's walking his dog. And he brings up a book through our conversation. She said, you may enjoy this book called Ishmael. Now, it's been around for a while. Other people have read it. They're not maybe familiar with what was in the book. So I'm studying the book. And I will always claim that our true selves have always been there. Our true nature has always been there. How truths and nature and how it's always been there. Natural laws always been there, and we've learned. That's what science is, observation, to learn from observing, at best, really observing how things work. Now I'm just past halfway of the book, but I will check in with some of the things. But the idea is going into the natural laws. It reminds me of Sapiens, and we're talking the past, and we're talking about history, and we talk about what we're being fed, right? What information we are being fed. And that's what we're living our lives. We go to school, and we're being fed information, true or not, real or not real, and we don't really know. But the natural laws don't change. So I just wanted to bring up some points from this book. Really just so that we can together understand that natural laws exist, and we don't need any scientists really to tell us that they exist. But it's helpful that they bring it to our attention, because most people are too distracted to go down that route. But anybody here can be a scientist and observe and report on what they observe. May not have some of the tools to see what we're seeing, but at a level that we can visually see, yes, we can all be scientists. So this is, I want to, if you remember this story, and this is nature. So at some point it talks to consequences and competition, and if you remove the competition, then deer, so it goes into humans, lions and deer, and you remove the lions. So what happens when you remove the lions? Well, the deer, you have a lot more deer to eat, but what happens is the population of deer increases. Well, they need more grass. What if they run out of grass? You plant more grass. Okay, you can control the situation as much as you can, but in nature, that's not how it works. So at some point, there's going to be too much deer, and too much deer that you can eat, because in the laws of, I'm just going to say the natives, the ones that have learned from nature, are the ones that are going to understand. We're going to take with what we need, and we're going to leave nature as it is, because we have predators and we have this in the circle of life for a reason. And that's a little bit example. Another example, as you might have heard, is when they remove the wolves from, I think it's Yellowstone Park, from a park. And what happened was the deer grew, the population of the deer grew, so much so they love the new tree shoots. They love the new shoots. Why wouldn't you? Of course we're going to love the new shoots better than the old shoots. That's no different than vegetables eating at the same time, or the vegetables that are too old and they're too woody, right? So they love the new shoots. So what happens is, as the deer population grows, the food is continues to go down and down. So you have less trees, less grass, and it has to do with how it changed the rivers by getting rid of the wolves. And yeah, so less trees, so things start to look barren. They start to look, yeah, like almost like you would get in Africa in some ways, where you have the savannas and stuff like that, when really there was a lush environment to begin with. So they realized this and brought back in the wolves. And in a short period of time, it's going to remind you, a short period of time, things go back into a beautiful, lush, just way. Things go back. So when I hear climate change and I hear certain things, it's amazing what can happen in a very short period of time. Yes, you weed your garden, and in a short period of time, it's going to fill in with other plants and weeds. It happens. So it's just beautiful that way. But I want to bring this back to population control, okay? Because a lot of good points, and people have told me, and this is something that's being, how can I say it, seeded into the public, that there's too many people on the earth. Well, I'm going to call BS on that. I don't agree with it, and it's really simple math. And yes, they have all the arguments that they speak to, but at the same time, what we are doing with our agriculture is horrendous. Okay, it's horrendous. The amount of food that we eat, we just don't eat to survive anymore. People eat just for the sake of eating and eat too much food. So here's the thing. What they went in, just kind of one piece of it to bring population into perspective, is if you had an area of land, now this is what's true with animals, and let's say for some reason there's a drought. It's drier, so there's not enough food for the rabbits to be, I'm going to use rabbits, to be robust, to be thriving, to be indulging, to like that. If that happens for the animals, for some reason there's a shortage of food, not as enough food, what happens is they don't give birth. Or they don't give birth to 5 pups, or in the cases bunnies, cute little bunnies, they give birth to less and less as that happens. And this is a lesson for understanding that we have created this whole population starvation based on what? We give cheap food to starving populations that aren't able to grow their own food. This is the kind of discussion that's going on in this book. And this discussion that's going on in this book regarding this is we're growing more food right? Which is raping the land. Now I'm just going to keep it very simple here. We may be able to go further into it, but just keep it very simple. We're growing more food because we believe we need more food to feed the hungry. It's not even really that good food, but so we're shifting it over. So we're raping the land, taking down forest and trees to grow more food to feed the hungry. Meanwhile, the hungry they just keep growing in the number of hungry. So the key thing is they keep having lots of babies because we keep feeding them but this poor quality food. And so of course they're going to have more babies. What would be better in some ways is to have a discussion about how can they grow their own food. And if for some reason they don't have as much food, then they're not going to have as much babies. End of story. Where there's food aplenty, animals in our habitat will have more babies. And if they don't, then things don't happen the same way, right? So are we actually feeding the hunger in this world to actually be increasing the population because of the way we're approaching it? Great discussion in the book. Great discussion. When really we should work with nature, and if there's not enough food in the natural environment around, then you don't get pregnant. A key and point. I mean, if we think about eating disorders, a person who has an eating disorder won't be able to get pregnant. Okay, just generally speaking, they may be more fertile than the others, but people who are athletes, so I experienced this one, when they work out as hard as they do, and they're putting that much effort, to me, it only took 3 days of serious working out. It was a competition. And I missed my menses that month. So if I'm missing it, this happens to teenagers where these elite athletes as teenagers, they won't get pregnant. So you can see all that effort that goes out is disrupting the balance within the body. And it's the same thing if you go hungry. If you go hungry, or maybe just getting enough, less than 3 meals a day or something, it does for animals when there's a famine or they can't get enough food or there's just too many. If you grow to a population where you can't sustain with the food in the land, then there's less births to happen until the balance comes in. And we do that as humans as well, like the Inuit with the seals and the mammals and the fish, and they kind of see the balance of it, and they do that. Of course, there's more discussion there, of course, in that way. What else to do? So supply and demand, supply and demand and supply. So what comes first when it comes to society and also to do with marketing and capitalism, right? You can create a demand for something through scarcity, which is what's happening with the current poke. And this is just psychology, just psychology. This is capitalism, corporations making money, same thing, but we can do it in other ways as well. So are we creating a hungry population in a sense by just giving them the food that we're giving, but they're not having less? We don't focus on birth control as much as we focus on giving them food. I mean, this is some of the discussions that goes on in the book. I so look forward to finish reading it. But to have discussions around it for the reasons we can is so important. So consequences of anything that we do maybe can looked at as fresh eyes. Fresh eyes would be important. And just working with natural laws, and bring them in, because natural laws have been around and they'll always be around. They're not going to change. Natural laws will be there. So I wanted to speak to that. Now I did mention something else I wanted to bring up. Oh yeah, this is just something interesting, and I'm going to put the links below. So Ishmael, I'll put the name of the book and the author down below. I'm just loaning from the library, borrowed it from the library. But the other thing I wanted to jump into on the Philosopher's Quip which was just, it's every Saturday. It's a group that gets together. It's still in the development stages, but the idea is to talk about various topics and subjects. But this particular last Saturday, we actually had a person as the topic in his circumstances, which is wonderful. He was a blind person, but not all blind people come to be blind the same way. So I learned something interesting, that when they had the incubators come in around 1942, which when he was born, and the pressure in the incubators actually caused some people to lose their sight. And so he had lost of sight in one eye as an infant. I think it was only like 2.5 pounds. And I explained to them, my father was only 1.5 pounds, and they named him, and the doctor just said, well, you should name him, didn't think he was going to live at all. And they put him in a drawer with, like we're talking, just a drawer in a dresser with hot water bottles right now. He was born in mid-April, which means it's not the warmest of weather yet. And they fed his mom, or my grandmother, fed him with a eyedropper, or one of those droppers, pipette or something like that. That's how they fed him. And she didn't give up. She was stubborn in many ways. So any of my family, getting emotional. Gotta love those people, right? Where they don't give up. They don't give in to what the norm is. It's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. So, what was I talking? Okay, so Nick is a fella, and I'm going to post his podcast down below. I told him that I went to a restaurant here in Toronto. So we were asking questions. We all got to ask whatever questions we wanted. He was open to any questions. And it was fascinating to get his stories on it. And I had mentioned that I had been to Noir here in Toronto. There's one in Montreal. And there may be other restaurants like this where it's operated and the servers are blind. And what you do is you go in, yes, you order, and you're in a lighted space where you can order and talk to somebody, and then you get taken in. I'll put the website to Au Noir as well. You get taken into a room, you can't see a thing. If there was any light seeping in, at times you can kind of see. But there was absolutely nothing. Black. Just couldn't. You open your eyes, and not that you're straining to see light, but nothing. And they're blind. So they take you through it, and you eat in the dark. And he asked me a question. He said, how big was the room? And I go, I have no idea. And that's what he lives with every day, no matter where he goes. Sure, probably in his own space, he can walk around the corners and see that, but often he's in spaces, and there's the unknown of what's going on all around him, inside or outside. It was a fascinating conversation. So he actually asked if I would go on one of his podcasts. And my daughter had been there a couple times as well. We went back because she really liked it and wanted to have her birthday party there. So we had a handful of them, the kids, and I brought them there. And they had a great time. And, she spoke from the place of what was great to experience something that somebody else may experience. You get an understanding. So that's that. But his name is Nick Isenberg, and he has a podcast through this radio station in the States. He's from Colorado. And he also has a YouTube channel. I'm going through some of his YouTube channels. And I kind of recommend it, have other people on the show, the Philosopher's Quip, to actually be able to ask questions. So it's just a smart, small table of people that get to ask the questions. And then we're going to have people who are going to view, they're going to watch, they're going to come in, or they're going to watch old ones. And there's all this interaction of information and discussion that goes on. So I wanted to bring up that as well. And yes, we're going to have another launch, because we've had different websites for the iAwesome, or the International Academy of Universal Self-Mastery. There's going to be a relaunch in February 20th. I'll post the link when it's available. But this is a awesome academy or online platform. It's going to be a safe space. It's not going to be like other learning platforms. It's a safe space. It's going to be all in the realms of many things to learn. There'll be it's for people's growth, basically, and to keep going. It's that journey of growth. And there's going to be groups. So they've done a little bit differently where the faculty members, any of us that are doing a course, we actually have like a Facebook group. So then over time you have all the people that are familiar with the subject, and the faculty member like myself could come in and do, you know, a question and answer, you know, Q&A with the group, or come on live, share some new things, whatever it is, depending on what the course is. But it's one of those platforms that is just starting out. It was only conceived or birthed not even a year ago. I remember talking to Aisha Hogan, I think it was in May or something, and it was just in April, so it's not even a year. And they've come so far to building this whole platform for faculty members to upload all these courses, but each faculty member does a complimentary or a free, it may be a snippet from their course that they're doing, or it can be completely different. That's where I'm doing the book club in there a bit differently. I'm reading from it, but it's, you know, it's just one of those spaces, you know, it's going to do well. It cannot not do well, because the intentions are beautiful. The intentions are beautiful. And it's ongoing growth, you know, ongoing growth. And maybe somebody is ready now to dive into that. And what you have in this space, because Aisha interviews all the faculty member, is, you know, you're going to have impeccable people that are teaching these courses, and a variety of meditations, all kinds of things. You can get a certification in there for Reiki, all such a wide variety. Some will just be interest. There'll be a variety of things, but there's going to be so many things that are brought there. I know there's a magazine, so ongoing learning, reading, if you like that kind of thing. There's so much that they're bringing in. So much thought has gone to make it exciting and to make it fun for everybody, for faculty, whatever. So as a faculty member, I can go and take the others' courses. I can just do one-off events if I want to. It's going to be a lot of fun. Yes, hi Gordon. Recreational eating, yes. Not for survival, but just to eat because you can. I've got that much food, so much abundance in the food area, but is it good quality food at the end of the day? This is the biggest thing, is quality when it comes to our food. Because if you don't know this already, the quality of food will be nourishing, uplifting, bring more energy into your body. And the one that's poor quality, processed, genetically modified, chemicals, laden with chemicals, that will bring down your energy, make your mind foggy, and congestion, you know, cause congestion, will interfere with all kinds of processes, including detoxification, which is very important. Detoxification, absolutely. If you've read my book, you'll see how it fits into the stages of disease. It's a very simple, common sense kind of thing. Hi, Dave. Yep, filled with great information. Well, why the heck not? I mean, we really do have to simplify things. Things have been made so complicated for the reasons they are. Let's just keep continuing to simplify. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of connect the dots with various things for sure, because that's the truth of the matter. Is if anything is truthful, you're going to hear it from somewhere else. It's not going to stand alone, and everything else that comes a part of that, it's going to click. It cannot click. When we think of connecting the dots, you're not going to have, how can I say it? You know, theories are theories, and I've talked about theories before. Theories are not proven, right? Theories are theory, end of story. Truths are truth. You're going to see it that way every time, and they're simpler, and it really comes back, as I've been saying, natural laws. The natural laws, nature, inner nature, your true nature, that's where the power is. There. You have everything you need to heal. Could you heal instantly? Only if you knew how to do it. We have not been trained to do. Nope, we've been trained to add one-on-one. We've been trained to do these tasks that actually slow down our mind, to tell you the truth. They slow down our mind. And there you go. So I think that was it I was going to talk about today. Really bringing Ishmael to the table. Nick Isenberg, something fun, and so he calls it the tactile traveler. He used to be a reporter. So here, a fellow, he's blind in one eye. He's now blind in two. He has both glass eyes now, and so he was able to see other things at other times in his life, but now he's completely blind with two glass eyes, and he was a reporter. So even only having one eye, I asked him, why did you want to be a reporter? Well, it just came naturally to him, introducing a lovely voice, and I think he did radio shows thereafter, and he's doing this radio show. And what it may take us an hour to do, it takes him several or more hours, a dozen hours, all day, and he's in for the task, right? He's in for the task. He says he has certain people that will kind of check and double check, because it's, this is all going through a radio station, so there's a person that will tighten things up and help him out at the end, make some adjustments. But at the end of the day, he's doing most of himself. When I was going through the interview with him, he has sound. Now, he has hearing aids. He can't be speakerphone because then it's too disturbing, too distracting. So he has hearing aids, and things are repeated slowly. But through voice and through automated voice sounds, he's able to know when he's recording, when it is stopped, if it's saved, if the audio has been working. So just kind of listening to all that unfold on the phone with him was interesting, but very fascinating. Talking to people, or as we say, put ourselves in other people's shoes, but to be able to ask them questions in a safe environment and then be open to comfort to share. Why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they want us to better understand, what they're going through, instead of being fearful and pitying them and going into that place? Why don't we welcome the differences and support them and be able to learn about, what they're doing? I remember listening to a story, because this has to do with weight loss. A lot of people's goals are weight loss, but I remember hearing this fella's, he was a few 100 pounds overweight, and I had no idea, this is earlier on, this is about 15 years ago, that he, to as much weight that he had on his body, he could not tie his shoes. He could not tie his own shoes. Yes, things they can't see, below that robust body. And so there's things that we take for granted sometimes, even just being a little overweight or only somewhat overweight. But when people are very overweight, it must affect their mindset. Obviously it does. It really does. And a lot of them don't even go outside. And we think about isolation today. This could bring up to mind just how many people feel isolated and are isolated for the reasons they are. Maybe they do have a disability that allows them not to interact with the people easily enough in their surroundings, a blind person, for instance. And perhaps people who are grossly overweight, as they call it, don't like the word, but and they don't go out. I mean, they're the type of people that take two seats up, on a plane. They're the people. How often do you see these people? They don't really go out as much, so they must feel isolated and just do the best. And it's different than maybe we're getting a sense of that isolation, or some people are. I'm still going about, and I was hoping that curfew was going to go and play, because I was going to go and walk around Toronto, but it's not coming into fruition, the curfew. We're almost there, as they say. Yeah, right. Okay. Things are going on. This is flu season. This is the season of things that are happening. Usually, I have so many questions for what they're talking about. What usually happens? You can't have 100 beds that are not used the majority of the year. So you're going to have so much beds. So how does it happen every year when it comes to flu season? And some are less than others. Like, what happens? I have so many questions to ask, to really understand. Are they making sense of what they're saying? But most people won't know to ask questions. So let's go into some jokes. I've got some good ones here. So I've got 4 for today. of jokes, and then I'll post them up. What do you call a deer with no eyes? What do you call a deer with no eyes? No idea. Well, you guys see the spelling of that one. It's no and I and deer. No idea. And that was a funny one. But okay, next. I like to hold hands at the movies, which always seems to startle strangers. A string walks into a bar. Bartender says, "We don't serve strings here." String walks outside, ties himself, undoes one end of himself, and walks back in. The bartender asks, "Are you a string?" And the string says, "No, I'm afraid not." Haha. Next one. This is kind of a little silly, but it's a little bit of a brain twister, I will say. What is red and smells like blue paint? What is red and smells like blue paint? Red paint. Red paint. Anyway, funny as it is, I have another one here that came through my email that I have to just read. This is good, and I'll type it all out into Facebook as I have to do this, but I like this one, so I'm going to leave this one for the end. All right, ready? I've been to a lot of places, but I've never been in cahoots. Apparently, you can't go alone. You have to be in cahoots with someone. I've also never been incognito either. I hear no one recognizes you there. I have, however, been insane, and they don't have an airport. You have to be driven there. I have made several trips. There you go. Cahoots, cognito, and sane, all in one paragraph. Haha. Okay, I'll type that out sometime in the next little while. But, yep, I'm afraid not. That's how it goes. That's the one thing about reading them out is the way the words come together and spelled is part, is part of the humor. So thanks for buying into that and doing the best you can and imagining what it is that I'm saying. Well, that brings us to the closure of today's Live at 5 Mondays. And if something comes up, I'll let you know. Otherwise, it's still as crazy out there, be it with this event, than ever. No question about it. Could talk about it till the cows come home, but I'm going to say you probably have enough information on that anyway. The idea is to put the certain amount of information into your awareness and leave the rest of the day to have fun and enjoy and live and be and all that kind of good stuff. So get your things done that you need to get done. And I think this time what I'm going to post up is the Civil Disobedience by Thorough. Is it Thorough? Something like that. Where's it's coming up here? Civil Disobedience. It's only about 3 pages, but it's worth the read. And I'll just leave it there. It's not coming up easily enough. But it's a PDF, so I'm going to post that up as well. And yeah, keep sending me videos that, at times if I find a really good one, I will send it along to people. But quite frankly, probably a number of people are sharing. You're on various groups. You're getting enough of the information. Probably don't need everything and anything coming from myself. But so question is a good thing, and at the end of the day, you're probably more informed on many of the things that are kind of going around. I like listening to Sasha Stone. He seems to have been connected in various ways to what's going on. And the core of it, the root core of it, slavery, is really at the root core of some of this. Yes, is it control? Yeah, kind of goes hand in hand, slavery, and all the ways that they do it, unpleasant to talk about, but in reality supposedly exists from sources that, first-hand sources that I speak to. So not to bring too much of that in, because it is very dark. It's very dark, and I just don't want that on the top of your mind. But let's be aware of certain things for sure, and enough aware, and be connected, and stay connected, and just be informed enough. And again, once you're informed, the rest of the day is yours. Yours to enjoy, your business, your passion, whatever else is that you do to help people, to serve people. All of those things are going to be more important at this time, more than ever, for together to raise consciousness together. And how do you do that but do it for yourself first? And that's the only person you can control to do it. And where need be, where people who work in that field and service-oriented, and that service-oriented sounds kind of dry, but in that field where we are meant to be doing what we're doing, we do that because we can, and we have a good desire, a grand desire, to do it. Just there. It's all good. Anyway, take care, everyone. Bye for now. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll see you again live at 5 at a future day. Thanks for laughing at the jokes. Bye for now.